Hey guys, what's going on? Jimmy the Owl here, and Lords of the Fallen has been out for about a day now, just coming up to the second, and I thought I'd give my thoughts and opinions on it, seeming I'm going to have to restart again, so the journey video might be a while in the making. The restart might not happen, I might just continue on PlayStation, I'm not sure, but I'll get into that bit now. So pretty much, I bought Lords of the Fallen on launch. I was excited, pre-ordered it, you know how I do these things. When I get really excited for a game, I go all in, butts to the wall, nothing at all kind of game. And this was one of them. Lords of the Fallen was one that I was excited for. Hell, there's even a video on my channel of me playing the original one to, you know, put me in some kind of mindset to understand what's happening in this reboot, prequel, sequel sort of deal. No clue which one it is. I think it's a direct sequel, and they've just named it weirdly. With that being said, the game ran like ass. It was 20 FPS in some areas for me, and I don't have a terrible computer in any sense. Slapping everything on low should facilitate a, you know, doable experience, at least 30, I would argue. I definitely shouldn't be 20 and like frame chopping everywhere in large areas and bosses. I'm just peaking 30, sometimes 40 in small cramped spaces. It was just an unplayable mess with frame drops galore everywhere. Until today, 2 patches in 1 and a bit day, and insanely, they have managed to boost the FPS to where I'm at 60 to 70, which I still think is low for what I'm doing, with the occasional dip under 60, but it's better than the PS5's performance mode now, so I'm at a standstill on if I start again or just continue my adventure, because the journey is not really a journey when I'm already repeating things I've already done, so I think the PlayStation playthrough will continue. With that being said, I can play it on PC now, so I'm very grateful for that. It's nice to see developers getting quick fixes out to their problems. Apparently, they found out with the this is one thing. They quoted verbatim the bug reports that were being sent in. So that means they were actually monitoring the situation and giving feedback on it, which is something most developers aren't doing in this day and age. They were like, well, with the bug crashes you sent in, we've seen the problems, here's the fixes. These are the problems, these are the fixes. Instead of just being like, well, we see there's some problems, and we'll get fixes to you at some point, we'll keep you in tune. They literally was like, here's the problems, here's the fixes that we've got at the moment, temp fixes for you, and we'll get the real ones out to you as soon as possible. Beautiful, beautiful communications from the dev team. I have never seen this before in so long in my life. It's been a while since a dev team has been very forward about the problems. Even Wayfinder will be like, server issues, we're looking into it, and you have no clue what the problem is or how long it'll take to get fixed. So I applaud them for actually putting in the work and doing some sort of fucking investigation quickly into how to quickly fix these things temporarily while they find a proper fix. Huge ups from me for that one. That is a big dub for devs. With that being said, it boosted my FPS from 20 to 30 to 60 to 70, which is insane to me. It is actually insane that they've managed to fix it that well so quickly. So it's a standstill. Probably what I'll do is finish my PlayStation playthrough with the choppy frame rate that is on performance mode, and then go to the PC version to do, like, I had the idea of a crossbow challenge and stuff, and the crossbow playthrough anyway, even if it wasn't a challenge, just to see what that was like. So that would be fun to do. But I'm getting sidetracked. Let me talk about my actual thoughts on the game. That's just like just a mini section of like how great it is to have devs actually fucking fix their shit as fast as they possibly can, even if it's temporary and they're going to give a better fix later on. Just having a way around problems is quick and easily is so great. I'm so grateful for it. So my biggest things with Lords of the Fallen and more gameplay wise are the shortcuts and enemy density. They're my 2 biggest problems. Everything else is swell. So we'll start with shortcuts. Shortcuts have become long cuts. They have made the baffling decision to have the elevator doors close on you before you can get out of an elevator, which means you physically can't send the elevator back up. a quick fix to this, because I think I know why this happens, and you'll see it happen every now and again while you're just playing the game. If you go up an elevated surface, there's a chance your character gets stuck in an elevated jump, and you just kind of dangle there. Enemies do it as well. You know, it's not just your character, and I think this was their fix to make sure that didn't happen while rolling off the edge. A quick fix for this is literally, there's always 2 levers to take the elevator back to where you're not at. Just have that, send the elevator back up. Done. You've automatically fixed the elevator problem. You send the elevator back up by pulling the lever at the bottom, sends it back up, or pull the elevator at the top and it sends it, you know, sends it back down. Like, you know, it's not rocket science. There's an easy fix for it if it is the elevation bug that is causing this problem to occur. And that's why they felt this necessary. That's the only reason. The only other reason is just padding to make the game feel longer, because those runbacks are longer. On about padding, enemy density is a bit ridiculous, borderlining on Dark Souls 2 levels of enemy density. Granted, the enemy density in Lords of the Fallen is a bit more manageable, so I mean most of it is like 1 to 2 hittable enemies. And they normally don't ramp up the hard hitters for a while. It takes a while for there to be multiple enemies you have to try and kill at once that are like taking multiple hits and aren't staggering, so I'm fine with that. I don't mind too big of a density when it's just a load of minions that don't really equate to much. But they're my 2 biggest problems. My biggest missing point is that the boss weaponry no longer give you a special version for doing a special thing during the boss fight. That was one of the most cool and unique things about the original, and it's gone. But what they've put in place is much better. Let's get to the positives and what I really enjoy about this game. Movement feels great. The weapon swings feel cool, unique, interesting, and don't feel like a button mash, with interesting ways to combo weapons. One-handing and two-handing your weapon will change the way your weapon works, and you can combo the moves together, kind of like a trick weapon, but not as flashy or cool in any way, shape, or form. So what you can do is like start off two-handed swings, switch to a light hand, 2 light hand swings, and then finish off with a 2-hand finisher and stuff. You can play around with it, and it's definitely much more funner this way. Granted, that removes, because of how the weapon worked, it removes the stat aspect from two-handing a strength weapon, but I can bear with that, seeming not anything so far seems to have insanely high scaling, with the highest scaling weapon I've seen be like 30 something strength, I think, just like a flatline 30 strength, and you know, you can get there pretty easily and decently without having to worry about it too much. Areas are beautiful to look at, nicely done, all unique and different. Nothing's feeling the same. I feel like every area is a new area, nothing compared to the old. Enemies also fit the areas. They haven't really repeated the enemies too much, to the point where I feel like I'm just fighting the same enemies over and over and over again. Obviously, enemies from other areas are always popping up later on. That's kind of how these games work. But they do have different variants and different types of enemies showing up throughout the world, as well as the old trope of reusing bosses as bigger enemies later on. It's been a fun romp through these worlds, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I said before, with the weapons choices are cool and interesting. I haven't seen a bad weapon of the bunch that I was like, man, this just looks disgusting, I don't want to try this. So far, every weapon I've saw is either goofy or cool looking. I haven't really seen like a standard-ish weapon yet, which is interesting. They all have a nice design to them, and they all seem to have something cool going on with them. The range system is interesting to me. So there is instead of having a mana bar, you'll have an ammo bar, and this ammo bar can be replenished with ammo pouches, and this makes an interesting dynamic for range builds that I really want to play around with at some point. And it's very intriguing that crossbows also have scalings as well. This game is just filled with little details like that just puts it like a little bit higher than some games for me, than creating new and unique builds that go with every weapon. One of my biggest gripes about Souls games, and it makes sense, crossbows never have a scaling and normally fall off too hard to make them worthwhile, as well as bow builds normally don't work because eventually they just start slamming too many shields on enemies, or the bow just doesn't do enough damage, or it just takes way too many arrows to get through an area to the point where it's not worth it. For example, Dark Souls 3 put a limit on arrow cappage at 99, which sounds alright, but you don't get far enough through the level without using majority of those bolts or arrows. So what ends up happening is you clear the area once, get the shortcut to the boss fight, and then reset, and then just run to the boss, because you can't fight your way there without losing too many arrows to do the boss fight with. So that becomes a whole problem, and this game seems to be trying to rectify that, as well as adding weak spots to these bosses that only ranged characters can hit, to give them a step above the edge because of their limitations with mana and ammo and all that good stuff. It is an interesting dynamic that I really can't wait to play around with at some point. As well as boss weapons. Like I said, boss weapons now don't have their special variant, but the way they do work is a lot more interesting and in-depth than normal Souls adventures. You don't just get a soul and trade that soul in for one of 2 items. You trade that soul into a merchant, and that merchant will open a shop for that soul. And those remnants, I think they were called, will have all the items of that boss in. And you can collect currency to just clear out that shop. You don't have the New Game Plus to get every item in this game from the looks of it. Unless there's special items in New Game Plus, all boss weapons and armor and spells can be achieved in one single swoop playthrough, and I think that's good and cool, because a lot of people don't want to New Game Plus. A lot of people don't like that aspect. Making the game more difficult for some people doesn't fit them very well, just to get an extra item. So being able to sit there and grind these coins whichever way you want to be able to get the set of armor, for example, from the first boss, and be happy that you got all that armor without having to New Game Plus, or to get her weapon and her spell. You can do that with no qualms. Like, there's no punishment for doing this, and it's perfectly fine to do it all in one playthrough. It just makes the first experience a lot more nicer than having to go again and go again and go again to get all the items that you need. One of the big things I've been missing off is the lamp. The lamp mechanic is cool and interesting, but I think falls flat in combat. Unless I'm just not using it properly in combat, it just doesn't seem to have that big of effect. I know that you can kind of use it to push enemies off cliffs and stuff, but I've never managed to really do it. But the Rogar world and the normal world being 2 separate entities which have 2 separate ways to go. Sometimes you need to be in the Rogar world to continue, or the human world to continue. And like, it makes the game much more interesting and unique in that aspect. Switching between the worlds to try and find out which one you need to be in, which one has the secrets in, which one has the secret ways in, and so on and so forth, is a really interesting take on the formula. Granted, it can get a bit annoying because some areas require you to be in that mode, and it increases enemy spawns, and dying in this world is a pain in the ass because you don't get a second chance. But overall, it's, you know, it's a good system. It works fine, and I do enjoy it, and I have been enjoying it. There's some problems with that world being a tad bit too annoying and causing issues with platforming, but they have been recent issues, so I'm hoping it was just like my controller not working properly, and I can revisit that. I think that's about it. The only other problem, actually, I did forget, the seamless co-op. The seamless co-op is not seamless as it makes it out to be. And I do want to put this out there in case anyone is thinking of buying this for co-op. Don't buy this for the seamless co-op. It's not very seamless. The biggest problem you'll have is that the seamless co-op is, you can play the game from start to finish, but the problem is player 2 will only get 30% of the souls gained and no items or progression in his own world, which means you'll still have to constantly switch worlds to keep player 2 up to date and involved with items and levels, or he'll fall behind and still have starting gear. The only way you can consider this seamless co-op is if player 1 is a new person playing the game and player 2 is someone who's already beat the game full build all items he wants, and he can go from start to finish with you, and there'll be no negatives for him. He'll just be getting souls at a very limited rate. It's not very seamless, as well as if they have just some kooky bullshit where if you travel too far from your lamp bearer, it teleports you back to them, which is kind of like, I don't get why it's doing that. Also, the netcode is just absolutely atrocious. I don't know if it's peer-to-peer and my connection just stinks, or if the servers themselves just have crap fucking connections, because me and my friend tried the multiplayer out a couple of times and it is atrocious. It is laggy, some of the hits, like in PvP especially, should hit and just don't. Some of the boss combat in co-op is just unplayable because you get grabbed even though you dodge, you get hit even though she hasn't swung. It is absolutely fucking baffling how this is shipped with such bad multiplayer. But multiplayer for me is something I dabble in and don't really pay attention to after release, so I'm not too bothered about that, and hopefully with how they're fixing things, the netcode can get more stable and better. And if it is peer-to-peer connection, then it's just tough tits. There's not much we can do. Just hope you connect to someone with better connection than you, or that they turn on a region lock so you can decide worldwide or current location would be better option. But overall, game has been a blast, and I can't wait to finish it and move on to the next playthrough on PC, because I think I'll just end up finishing the PlayStation playthrough. I've rambled enough in this video. Would I recommend buying it? I would recommend buying it to test it, right? I wouldn't recommend just a full-out purchase and expect to run the game. I would definitely try and see if you can test it out first. Even if you just have to buy it on Steam, see if you can run it, and if you can't, refund it. Because there's a chance you just won't play it. Don't sink too many hours into it, because the areas only get more laggier the further you go into the game, from my experience on PS5. So I would recommend that if you're running poorly at the start, to not try and force through it, because you will hit a wall where your FPS just gets lower and lower and less stable. So I thought I would throw that out there as well. But overall, the game itself I would recommend, especially if you got a PS5. It's not the best, but it's a lot more stable, and I can guarantee that it'll be more stable for you, because mine is. If you're on PC, tread with caution. It's running better now, but I can't guarantee it's going to run good on your system. They're seeming to be having a lot of problems with RTX cards and stuff not functioning to the performance they should be, and stuff like that. So tread with caution, but the game itself is great. I can't wait to have multiple playthroughs on this, multiple videos on this. It's going to be a fun journey. I can't wait to finish it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.